Hi folks, welcome to RJA Impact. As in a few months we will see the trial of Paul Flores and his father Ruben Flores in connection with the abduction and murder of Kristin Smart. Today we're going to be talking about the background to this case and the lead up to the trial, and this all relates to the disappearance of Kristin almost 25 years ago. In a statement made after charges were brought against Paul and Ruben in 2021, San Luis Obispo District Attorney Dan Dow said, "These charges mark a major milestone. Today we make the first move towards bringing justice to Kristin, her family, and the people of San Luis Obispo County."
I'm here this afternoon to announce the arrest of Paul Flores for the murder of Kristin Smart and the arrest of his father, Ruben Flores, as an accessory to the murder.
But to understand these comments, first we have to take a step back in time to 1977 and then a party in 1996 to understand what they mean today. Kristin Denise Smart was born in 1977 in Germany to Stan and Denise, both teachers to children of American military personnel. As a child, she moved back to the US to Stockton, California, and after graduating, enrolled in the California Polytechnic State University, or Cal Poly. Disappearance. On the night she disappeared, on May the 25th, 1996, and as a reminder this was the Memorial Weekend that year, she attended a birthday party. This was at a fraternity house, and by all accounts she didn't really know anybody there. Another friend who didn't want to attend the party dropped her off, and according to people who were at the party, Krista was having a good time flirting with some of the male attendees and did get quite inebriated during the course of the evening. Due to the supposed solidarity amongst the fraternity group, not much else is known publicly about exactly what happened at the party. However, two anecdotes relating to Paul Flores are known. Firstly, one male partygoer briefly stepped into a bathroom with Kristin where she adjusted her makeup. After no more than a minute he left to find an agitated Paul Flores asking him directly what he'd been doing in the bathroom with that girl. After saying nothing, Flores visibly relaxed. Also, it appears that at some stage in the evening, Kristin fell over with some sort of crash, and when the source looked over, apparently Flores was lying next to her. Now, whether they fell together, it was an accident, it was contrived, or something else caused it, we don't know.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you do solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this matter should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Would you state your full name for the record, please?
Paul Ruben Flores.
And what is your date of birth, sir?
10/22/76.
At approximately 2 a.m, the party wound up, and as people were preparing to leave, Kristin was found lying down on a neighbour's lawn by two fellow students, Cheryl Anderson and Tim Davis, both who had also just left the party. They helped Smart to her feet and decided to walk back with her to her nearby dormitory. Another student from the party, yes, Paul Flores, popped up, joined their group and offered to help the two return Smart to her dorm room, wrapping his arm around Krista to help keep her up. Now, Cheryl actually knew Paul Flores from earlier encounters with him on campus, and she and her friends had nicknamed him Chester the Molester for the overt way he tried to force them to kiss him at parties and such like. She remembers him on that fateful journey back to their dorms, holding Kristin by her bare midriff, telling the others to leave them as they would be all right. Tim Davis departed the group first, since he lived off campus and had driven to the party. Cheryl Anderson was the second to depart the group, heading towards the Sierra Madre Towers, and she remembers asking Flores to walk Smart back to her dorm, since he lived closer. Flores later stated to police that he walked Smart as far as his dormitory, the Santa Lucia Hall, and then allowed her to walk back to her Muir dorm hall by herself, which was about 40 yards away. At least this is the story he tells the police, and this was the last known sighting of Kristin. During the weekend after the party, no one saw Kristin, and Sunday came and went. Kristin's family were expecting a call from her that weekend, but they never got it. Her roommate, Crystal, and if you remember she was the one that had dropped her off at the party, did notice her missing, but assumed she was sleeping or hanging out with other members of the party. After Saturday came and went, she started asking people where Kristin was, but nobody knew. On Monday, Crystal phones the campus police. The Cal Poly police didn't file a report, as it wasn't uncommon for students to leave campus for the Memorial Weekend. They even phoned the family, but didn't record the missing status until Tuesday. Now that's Friday until Tuesday with no active investigation, and it wasn't actually until the following Friday that police started to question people. One thing we know is that Kristin didn't have any money or credit cards at the time she went missing. Let's look at one other piece of evidence which, although indirect, does appear significant given that Kristin has never been found. On the Monday after the weekend, Flores was picked up for a driving offence. He had his mugshot taken. Now this wasn't considered significant until the police asked him about it later, and he initially said he'd picked it up during a basketball game. However, his friend who was interviewed and was also at the game said that he had already had the black eye when he got to the game. Now therefore, he'd lied to the police, and in his second story, he'd said he'd done it while changing some electronics on his vehicle. Why lie? And to the police as well? It doesn't make sense, does it? The official investigation. Now, the University Police Department originally suspected that Smart had gone on an unannounced vacation, as was common amongst students over the holidays, and as a result was slow in reporting her as a missing person to local law enforcement. She was only reported missing after a week, despite her family calling the police earlier. Several volunteers searched for her, some riding horses and some using ground-penetrating radar devices. No sign of Kristin was ever found. Over the months and years that followed, there was still no sign of Kristin. There were constant rumours which abounded after the initial investigations of sightings of Kristin, travelling, hitchhiking, and being seen in many far-flung places, but none of these came to anything. It wasn't in fact until several weeks later that cadaver dogs were led around the rooms where Flores had stayed in. 3 dogs independently identified the corner of one specific mattress in the rooms as having scent of human remains, as well as in a basket in the corner. The mattress belonged to, yes, you guessed it, Paul Flores.
I feel real strongly that, she didn't live beyond May 25th a year ago.
An example of unfounded rumours occurred in the Lachie Peterson murder investigation, where there were unfounded rumours in the media that Lachie's husband, Scott Peterson, had something to do with Smart's disappearance due to their simultaneous attendance at the Cal Poly campus. There was a brief initial inquiry into whether Peterson was tied to the disappearance, with Peterson denying any involvement, and he was eventually ruled out as a suspect by the police. Although her body was never discovered, an earring that might have belonged to Smart was found by a tenant at the former residence of Paul Flores' mother. On given the description, Smart's mother was convinced that this was one of Kristin's, but unfortunately the earring was not marked as evidence and has since been lost by the police. Between 1996 and 2007, various searches for Kristin's remains and other evidence were conducted, some using cadaver dogs which are trained to detect the scent of human remains, and these included searches of properties owned by the Flores family. No useful leads were found for nearly 2 decades.
In May of '96, were you a student at Cal Poly?
On the advice of my attorney, I refuse to answer that question based on the Fifth Amendment of the United States Constitution.
Please provide me with the employment positions that you have held since you started high school.
On the advice of my attorney, I refuse to answer that question based on the Fifth Amendment of the United States Constitution.
Are you presently employed?
On the advice of my attorney, I refuse to answer that question based on the Fifth Amendment of the United States Constitution.
Breakthrough. In September 2016, officials from the Obispo County Sheriff's Office announced that they were investigating a new lead in the case. Cadaver dogs from the FBI were brought in, and investigators spent approximately 4 days excavating an area on the Cal Poly campus, After 3 days, items were found at all 3 dig sites located on the same hillside near Smart's dorm. A spokesman for the sheriff's office said the items are being analysed to see whether they are connected to the case, which could take weeks, days or months. The items uncovered are apparently still part of the investigation. On April the 20th, 2021, it was announced by the prosecutor that they believe Kristin's body had been buried beneath the deck of Ruben Flores' home, but had recently been removed. Biological evidence was found using ground-penetrating radar and cadaver dogs to steer the police in the right direction. Legal processes. Smart was declared legally dead in May 2002 on the 6th anniversary of her disappearance. In 2005, her parents, Denise and Stan Smart, filed a civil case of wrongful death against Flores, one of the 3 students who walked Smart to her dorm, but the suit was dropped due to lack of evidence after Flores pled the Fifth Amendment and didn't say anything. In return, the Flores family filed a lawsuit against the Smart family for emotional distress, but the lawsuit never resulted in a judgment. Now, over the years, the Sheriff's Office regularly reviewed the case and spent thousands of hours and dollars in doing so. The FBI, too, have her on file as a high-priority missing person investigation with a reward of $75,000 for information leading to finding her or resolving her case. Terry Black, a Delta area man, independently offered a $100,000 reward for Smart's body. A huge increase in interest began in 2019 when musician Chris Lambert released a series of 10 podcast episodes about the case. The podcast recounts in details Kristin's probable abduction and subsequent death at the hands of another student on the campus of California Polytechnic State University over a quarter of a century ago. The podcast itself has been downloaded over 12 million times. In one cruel twist for the family at least, in January 2020, the Stockton Record reported that the FBI had informed Smart's family that additional news about her disappearance would be coming and the family might want to get away for a while, but didn't provide any specific information. However, also in January 2020, they issued a correction. The FBI didn't contact the Smart family, although there may have been more to this than first meets the eye, because actually in January 2020, the Obispo Police Department themselves confirmed that 2 trucks owned by Flores had been taken into evidence. A few days later, search warrants were served for specific items of evidence at 4 locations, 2 in Obispo, 1 in Washington State, and 1 at a home in Los Angeles County, and Flores was briefly detained during the search. It was reported by the prosecutor that numerous items of interest were successfully found during the search. This seems to be a gross understatement because amongst the items found were date rape drugs and homemade videos showing Flores abusing and raping young women. Also, according to police, his online history includes searches for videos of women being abused. An external hard drive cops discovered in Flores' house reportedly contained a folder titled Practice, in which investigators located a video of a woman with a ball gag in her mouth. A year later, in February 2021, it was reported that Flores had been arrested on suspicion of being a felon in possession with a firearm, which in itself is another felony. In March 2021, a search warrant was again issued to search Ruben Flores' home, including the use of cadaver dogs and ground-penetrating radar. An old Volkswagen was towed from the home of Ruben Flores after cadaver dogs searched the vehicle. The culmination of this increased activity was that on April the 13th, 2021, Paul Flores and his father Ruben Flores were taken into custody in relation to the case, and Paul Flores was charged with murder, with his father being charged as an accessory. Investigations concluded that Paul Flores had attempted to rape Smart, but that now the statute of limitations had expired on a sexual assault charge, but murder committed in the course of rape or attempted rape justified first-degree felony murder charges. Flores' 80-year-old father Ruben's charges is that of accessory to murder after the fact for allegedly helping his son hide Smart's dead body. Prosecutors have introduced into evidence personal accounts by more than 20 women who variously accused Paul Flores of past extreme sexual aggression and even rape. When sheriff's investigators searched Flores' home in 2020, they found homemade videos of Flores having sex with unconscious women, and so-called date rape drugs, according to the court filings. In September 2021, a judge ruled that there was sufficient evidence of guilt for the case to proceed to trial. The trial itself is set to begin on April the 25th, 2022. Aftermath. While the trial still has to take place, there was a public reaction to the slow timing of responses to Kristin's disappearance, particularly by the campus police, and then this led to the Kristin Smart Campus Security Act being written and signed into effect on the 1st of January 1999. This requires that all public colleges and publicly funded educational institutes to have their security services make arrangements with local police departments about reporting cases involving or possibly involving violence against students, including missing students. Well, that's it for now. Hopefully this overview has brought you up to date with events, and depending on the level of interest I might provide an update as the trial progresses, but I'll at least cover the verdict so you don't miss it, although I think this case is going to attract a lot of interest. And as an aside, I'm currently looking at a couple of fraud cases and deciding which to focus on for my next video. If you have any thoughts yourself, let me know in the comments and I'll definitely take a look. If you subscribe and hit the notification bell, then you won't miss out on future videos when they're released. Bye for now.